Chapter 590, Wuwang in. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. In other words, once he reached the 44th level in his spiritual power, Zhang Yuochen could utilize any spiritual spell involving a thunderbolt. Of course, it was not so easy for him to cast a level 2 magic art spell. He needed to study for several days before he could master it. As for the level 3 and 4 spells, he needed to spend an even longer time to study them. Even though he had not mastered any powerful, high-level spells, he was able to fight the weaker monks of the 8th change in the fish-dragon realm. Moreover, he had just reached the 44th level in his spiritual power. With the increase in his spiritual power, his real power would increase as well. He would soon be able to fight a group of monks in the 9th change of the fish-dragon realm. If he could raise his spiritual power to the 45th level, just one more, he would become a spiritual half-saint. Although it was just one level from the 44th to the 45th level, there was a huge, unimaginable gap between the two. One belonged to the earth and the other to the heavens. Zhang Yuochen spent another 6 days trying to master and consolidate his martial cultivation and spiritual power in the new realm. It's almost time. I'd better leave for the county town of Cyan Cloud County to carry out my holy stones transaction. Zhang Yuochen stood up and flicked away the dust on his shoulders. He left the scroll world and entered the desolate hills outside Lu'an City again. Lu'an City was 6,000 kilometers away from Cyan Cloud County. An ordinary man would take 4 months to complete the journey, traveling at the speed of 50 kilometers a day. But Zhang Yuochen was a master of spiritual power. He took far less time than a normal person to reach his destination. Rolling Thunder skill. Zhang Yuochen mobilized heaven and earth spiritual chi and turned them into powerful thunderbolts. Flashes of lightning condensed around his body and wrapped him within. Boom! A loud crash of thunder resounded over the fields. Zhang Yuochen soared into the clouds like a streak of lightning and flew far away. Rolling Thunder skill was just a level 1 thunderbolt spell. It was not that special, but Zhang Yuochen's spiritual power had reached such heights that even a level 1 magic art would take on great power. His speed was increased to a terrifying level. At dusk, Zhang Yuochen finally reached the outskirts of Cyan Cloud County. He dashed down from the clouds and landed on the ground. CHCH. The lightning streaks around his body slowly dissipated. No wonder a master of spiritual power is more powerful than a warrior. A warrior can only fly when he reaches the half-saint realm. But a master of spiritual power needs just a spell to fly in the sky or tunnel underground. Zhang Yuochen did not know that he could keep casting spells and flying thousands of miles because his spiritual power was so strong. A master of spiritual power at the 40th level would have been exhausted, crawling on the ground. Navy blue walls, 50-meter wide moats, towering altars, lofty tactical towers. Cyan Cloud County was several times bigger than Lu'an City. It imparted a feeling of quaint solemnity, as if it had witnessed much. An ancient city. In the eyes of the evil warriors, everything was based on interests. Whoever had the toughest fists spoke the truth. These warriors resembled a plate of scattered sand, unable to know how to govern the world or how to guide their people. In a word, it was incredible to see such an orderly, ancient city within a land of chaos. Zhang Yuochen did not go to Wuwang Inn after entering the county town. Instead, he went to a vehicle dealer and bought a savage beast carriage. The savage beast pulling the carriage was an inferior class level 3 beast called the single-horned tiger. It had a massive body, and it was very strong. Why had he bought a carriage? It was to transport the spiritual crystals used for purchasing holy stones. Juan Muya had said she could sell him 3 holy stones. Zhang Yuochen needed to prepare 33 million spiritual crystals for 3 holy stones, at the price of 11 million spiritual crystals per stone. Since Zhang Yuochen already knew Mu Linksai and Yuan Muya were together, he could not use the spatial ring. He could only carry the spiritual crystals with the carriage. Zhang Yuochen could trust Mu Linksai. But he had come to the Eastern Evil Land in order to kill the young master of Black Market Excellence Hall. It was a very dangerous operation. He did not want Mu Linksai to join him. Therefore, He could not let Mu Lingxi know his true identity. He could only tell her after he had killed Yi. Zhang Yuochen reached a street near Wuwang Inn and stopped for a while. He released his spiritual power to test the area around the inn. No matter what, Juan Muya was from the demonic sect. It was reasonable for her to prepare an ambush for Zhang Yuochen. Zhang Yuochen had to be extra careful. He needed to ensure that he could deal with her if she intended to kill him and take his money. There was no ambush around Wuwang Inn. The moon worship demonic sect is indeed more principled in their dealings than the black market. Zhang Yuochen smiled and regathered his spiritual power. He continued driving the carriage and arrived outside Wuwang Inn. Juan Muya stood on the 4th floor of the tower. She saw Zhang Yuochen's carriage from a distance and immediately dispatched her people to bring him into the inn. The carriage entered Wuwang Inn and arrived directly in the rear courtyard. By now, dusk had fallen and the sky had darkened. Many colorful lanterns had been raised inside Wuwang Inn. These hazy, colorful lights illuminated the night scene surreally. Juan Muya was wearing a white lace dress. She stood beneath the lanterns, watching the arriving carriage and laughing in the distance. Master Zhang, you are so bold. The men from Blood Cloud sect are all looking for you, yet you have dared to just march right into our county town. The savage beast carriage halted. Zhang Yuochen stepped on a shaft of the carriage and disembarked. He asked, Boss, where are the holy stones? Don't you think my charms are a match for the holy stones? Juan Muya walked over to Zhang Yuochen, her firm yet supple breasts quivering. Every curve of her body exuded a seductive charm. Zhang Yuochen felt a faint aroma assault him, and he could not help retreating a step. Juan Muya looked hurt. She said, Master Zhang, why are you so unappreciative? I'm most grateful to you for killing Fang Ji and Cao Ying, and I would like to show my gratitude. Why are you avoiding me? Your actions make me very sad. Zhang Yuochen replied, if Madam is really grateful, please let me have the 3 holy stones for free. The holy stones are too precious. I can't make this decision. Why don't I offer myself to Master Zhang? Juan Muya walked over to Zhang Yuochen and observed his eyes and figure up close. She discovered that this man really did resemble Zhang Yuochen. Could what Lingxi said be true? Was he really Zhang Yuochen? Swoosh! Juan Muya attacked him swiftly, trying to remove his metal mask. At this moment, she was merely 2 steps away from Zhang Yuochen. Her arm whizzed through the short distance with the speed of a monk of the 6th change in the fish-dragon realm. Her move was so unexpected that she had confidence she could unmask him, no matter how skilled he was. Juan Muya's fingers were about to touch his neck. Suddenly, Zhang Yuochen took one quick step backward. He shifted and reappeared at the top of the carriage. Zhang Yuochen stared at Juan Muya from his elevated position and asked coldly, Boss, what do you mean by this? Juan Muya chuckled and said, Don't get me wrong, Master Zhang. I am just wondering what the Master of Spiritual Power who killed Fang Ji and Cao Ying looks like. Zhang Yuochen cast his eyes in the darkness. He had discovered Mu Lingxi's aura. Do they suspect my identity? Said Zhang Yuochen to himself. Zhang Yuochen's eyeballs rolled. He decided to finish the transaction quickly and leave at once before anything happened. So he pretended to look angry, and he said in a deep voice, I'll close a blind eye to what just happened. Why don't we begin our transaction, madam? Zhang Yuochen leapt down and took out a 2-meter-tall copper-overlaid iron box from the carriage. Within the box was a gigantic crimson spiritual crystal, as tall as a human. It resembled a luscious, divine gem, giving off fiery flames. After the iron box was opened, the surrounding temperature soared rapidly. Zhang Yuochen said, This is a top-grade fire nature spiritual gem. It weighs 15 tons, and it can be cut into 8,000 highest-grade spiritual crystals. What do you think of its quality, madam? Juan Muya carefully scrutinized the spiritual crystal within the box and nodded appreciatively. The spiritual gem contains the chi of a flood dragon. If I'm not wrong, it must have been excavated from the body of a flood dragon lord. She was right. The top-grade spiritual gem had been excavated from the body of the black skeleton Flood Dragon King. Juan Muya folded her arms in front of her breasts and smiled coyly. 8,000 top-grade spiritual crystals are equivalent to 8 million ordinary spiritual crystals. That's still very far from our total price of 33 million spiritual crystals. Zhang Yuochen simply smiled and removed another box from the savage beast carriage. Inside the box was the tendon of a flood dragon. The tendon of a flood dragon lord is worth 3 million ordinary spiritual crystals. The tendon and the top-grade spiritual gem are worth 11 million spiritual crystals, the price of one holy stone. Master Zhang, if you have other treasures, please bring them all out at once. Juan Muya smiled. No, that's all I have. Zhang Yuochen added, if Madam trusts me, I can bring you the complete skeleton of the Flood Dragon Lord tomorrow. Zhang Yuochen had originally planned to bring the skeleton of the Black Skeleton Flood Dragon King to Wuwang Inn, but it was simply too massive. At over 100 meters long, it was heavier than a hill. The single-horned tiger simply could not haul it. So, Zhang Yuochen could only bring the spiritual gem and the tendon of the Flood Dragon first. Juan Muya pretended to think for a moment before saying, if you could remove your mask and let me see your face, I would believe you. And, I would put the 3 holy stones in your hand at once. At this moment, Mu Lingxi entered bearing the 3 holy stones. She walked in from the darkness and stood by Juan Muya's side. But Mu Lingxi's watery eyes were constantly fixed upon Zhang Yuochen. Her eyelids did not blink even once. Hide? How long can you hide? Don't you trust me? Looking at the man with a metal mask up close, Mu Lingxi was even more convinced that he was Zhang Yuochen. Had Juan Muya not reminded her beforehand to keep calm, she would have dashed out to Zhang Yuochen, unmasked him, and forced him to answer her questions.